This week on Eco Show, do uh, does carbon capture actually work? We'll find out later. Also this week, Monstera deliciosa. Is it really that delicious, or is it just a monster? And giraffes. They sure are a tall drink of water. We'll be talking about research on giraffes. And I am wheezy, not because I've picked up a smoking habit recently, but because I have phlegm in my lungs. So I apologize for that. But let's get into it. This is Eco Show. Hello and welcome to Eco Show. I'm Henry. This is Eco Show, a show about ecology, the environment, and news and happenings in that space, and sometimes some other things. We've got a little bit of a new setup today. I'm at a table, much more professional. I've rearranged the room a bit so I don't have as much of a nice background behind the couch as I used to have. So we've moved to the table. Okay. And yeah, that's the overview. Welcome. This is episode 32, and I hope you enjoy. You can skip around. Hopefully, I've put some timestamps depending on how lazy or not I'm feeling. We'll have a thing of the week at the start of the week, at the start of the section, and that will be a plant, animal, or ecological event. And then after that section, we have a research section. And after that research, we've got the news. So hopefully those timestamps are in there for your skipping around pleasure. If you don't have time to mess around with things of the week or news and you just want research or anything else. But anyways, let's get into it. Our thing of the week this week is Monstera deliciosa, also known as Monstera plants. I've got one in the corner, and usually there'd be one in the shot, but it's lost out now, so it's no longer in the camera range. And so Monstera is the genus, and Deliciosa is the species, and this is the usual. It's a house plant, or it's popular as a house plant. It has this big old palm sort of leaf thing, and there's 45 species of Monstera, and so Deliciosa with the big leaves is just one. That name in Latin means delicious monstrosity, so it's both delicious and a monstrosity. This delicious name comes from the edible fruit that it bears, which I had not heard of before, didn't know about. Apparently, it smells a bit like pineapple and banana and kind of tastes like pineapple, a little bit like jackfruit. And this fruit can take a year to reach maturity. The native range of this plant is from Mexico to Panama. It can grow up a tree up to 20 meters. So this, if you've seen one before, it will have these little aerial roots that stick out, and they allow it to climb up trees and walls, but it's not the same as ivy, which will usually damage walls and things like that. So this one is not as harmful to the environment that it's in, or to the thing that it's climbing up. And it can actually become an aerial plant as well. So as it's climbing up the tree, it can get to a point where it's completely disconnected from the soil, and it's only getting nutrients from rainwater and the air. This plant will flower, so you may be used to seeing it as just a leafy house plant, but in tropical areas, it will flower with some good, well-draining soil. But yeah, most of the time as a houseplant, it will just stay leafy. This is poisonous to cats, dogs, and humans, besides the fruit, because it's got this chemical, which I didn't write down the name, but it's almost like on the cellular level, it's like little crystals. So it's a good house plant, but also kind of, dangerous if you've got curious cats, dogs, or kids hanging around who want to take a bite out of it. We've said it lives like an epiphyte, and those holes that are in it, and we'll have some photos here, but if you're just listening, big, it's a big circular leaf. It's almost moon shaped, and will have a bunch of holes in it. And those holes allow for wind to blow through it, and they allow for water to drip down it. And you can imagine rain coming down and falling through the leaves. And by letting the rain fall through the leaves, it allows it to be more durable to heavy rainfall, and it also guides rainfall to the roots. So this is like sort of a little gutter. So I have a photo here of a big, tall Monstera that's just climbing up. So most of the time when people have them in their houses, when they get quite big, they'll have a stake or something that they are tying this to, but these will happily climb up a tree on their own. Here's the fruit in its unripe state. And so these little scales that you can see on it, those you will want to fall off before you eat it. And here's a photo of the fruit as it's ripening. So you can see towards the top, it's not necessarily as ripe where it's green, but where it's yellow, that's ripe. And those scales just will fall right off, and then you'll eat the fleshy bits beneath, and you'll want to remove the black bits in there. That's all we have for Monstera this week. If you got any other cool Monstera facts, be sure to put them below. But that's all. That's all for Monstera. That's all they're going to get this week. But we'll come to another houseplant some other time. Okay. Our research this week, I think this episode might be quite a quick one, so short and sweet for you. Our research this week, as advertised, is about giraffes. And in particular, we're talking about Maasai giraffes, which are in an isolated national park in Tanzania. And this research is looking at their population distribution, population size in this national park. So they found, unfortunately, that there's been a 49% population decline of the giraffes in this national park, and that's partially due to its isolation, as we'll see in a map, and it's not as well funded as other sites. They looked at DNA of the giraffe in the site and found that historically they would have been connected to other sites across the landscape, so they are limited by the landscape today in ways that they would not have been in the past. And let's see. Yeah, anti-poaching has been successful in nearby places, but they haven't really had the funding to implement that as much here. And here we have the title card for this. It's Maasai Giraffe Population Change Over 40 Years in Arusha National Park by Derek E. Lee et al. And Derek E. Lee. There's a Confederate general. I feel like if you give maybe that was coincidence. E. Lee. Okay, anyways. Yeah, so here's a photo of the map, and we can see right in the middle of the map, we have Arusha National Park. You can see right in the middle, there is Arusha National Park. And to the side, to the left, or I guess it would be to the west, you have the Serengeti National Park. And to the east, we have Mount Kilimanjaro National Park. And we don't have great, I didn't get a map with distance things on it, but you can imagine that this whole area would have been interconnected before, and with increased amounts of agriculture and urban development, we've got a situation where this is very much divided from these other national parks. So I'm sure it would be very challenging to do it, but it would be awesome if you could have this. Is, to my mind, when you look at this map, so you've got Arusha National Park, which is surrounded by yellow, which I'm assuming is fairly developed land, or at least it's not national parks. And this looks like the start of a great biodiversity corridor, so that would be a lot more land to take back. But in order to, it would be great if you could connect that Tsavo National Park to the Serengeti National Park. That seems like it would be ideal to be able to do that. Obviously, it would be quite challenging with different land use that's going on in there at the moment, but would be something that could possibly benefit them. And we have a photo here of a Maasai giraffe. I'm not sure how they are actually that different from other giraffes. Let's have a little look-see. Okay, so reading about Maasai giraffe, they have distinctive, jagged, irregular leaf-like blotches that extend from the hooves to its head. It's the national animal of Tanzania. I wonder if this is just the... Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. I think it has to do possibly with the splotches. I'll put up another photo that looks a bit more... So it's got these jagged and irregular spots. Let's see, this is the largest giraffes. The Maasai giraffe are the largest giraffe, making it the tallest land animal on Earth. Very cool. The bulls are heavier than the cows, weighing up to 1,300 kilograms, which is 2,900 pounds, and growing up to 5.5 meters or 18 feet in height. They can live up to 30 years of age, and they can live longer in captivity. Let's see. We'll have to do a giraffe section at some point, but it looks like, it's declined a lot in recent decades because of poaching and habitat loss. And then they're saying 32,000 are left in the wild. So it sounds like a lot, but it's not a huge number there. Okay, so that's what the Maasai giraffe is. We'll put a photo. We'll put a little maybe comparison between the regular giraffe. Let's see, what does the regular giraffe look like? Yeah, I guess the regular giraffe is like, I guess it has sort of like a squared off little splotches. Oh yeah, that's an interesting photo. So we've got the Maasai giraffe, a West African giraffe, a Rothschild's, and a reticulated, an Angolan giraffe. So we have a bunch of different giraffes that can kind of be spotted by their spots a little bit there. Okay. So that is the research there. And on to our news. So the first thing that we mentioned was about carbon capture, and there's an article that I was reading about the downsides and the sort of failures of carbon capture. So carbon capture has been promoted and seen as a way to reduce carbon dioxide. This is sort of the way it's promoted is like well, if carbon dioxide is the problem, why don't we just take it out of the atmosphere and put it back in the ground? And this has been promoted, and this is sort of the this will be the put the blinker lights on, but it's been promoted by fossil fuel companies in particular. And part of the reasons why they like carbon capture is because it's actually a method that is just used for producing more oil. So when you pump your carbon dioxide into the ground, it's like trying to get the last. It's like creating pressure to push out your oil. So it's almost like when you're blowing into a straw and making the liquid bubble or something like that. But you can basically use it as a fossil fuel company to put more, produce more oil, and you can have maybe it will look like you're sequestering carbon dioxide because you're technically putting it in the ground. And this is often captured from natural gas production anyway. So it's kind of a multi like messed up thing is like it's often taken from natural gas, which I don't really like natural gas as a name. It's I believe it's just methane. Let's just call it methane. Because natural gas, I'm almost 100%, is just a greenwashing term. So, and natural gas is a whole nother can of worms because of how much extra gas is released from these well sites, but that's a topic for another time. So a lot of the carbon dioxide that's captured is just from natural gas wells anyways. And this research is from the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. And when I was looking up where their funding is from and everything like that, they are a non-profit that has funding from a variety of sources, including a bit of the ones that you'd see like on PBS in the US, like the MacArthur Foundation and things like that. So it wasn't a deep dive into how legit this research was from this group, like if they've got ulterior motives for this research. But from looking at it, that seemed like they're pretty decent. And so they have this little image here that sort of sums up what is going on. Carbon capture efforts are in service to big oil is the title of this graph. The subtitle is nearly 3/4 of CO2 captured annually is reinjected into oil fields to push more oil and gas out of the ground. So our first little bar graph, horizontal bar graph, is showing that there is 309 million tons of CO2 captured annually, and 69% is from processing natural gas, 25% industrial applications, and 6% power generation. And then most of it they're showing is used to extract more oil and gas. So 73% is used to get more oil out of the ground, and 27% is used in underground storage. Carbon capture would be a really cool thing to accelerate or to, I don't know too many of the specifics, but obviously the idea of carbon capture is a good idea in order to get things back down, because we're already at a point of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere where the changes that we can expect to see and that we're currently seeing in climate are catastrophic for many places. And having mechanisms to sequester carbon dioxide is a cool thing to think about, but thinking about it is doing it alongside continued use of fossil fuels is just not a groovy idea or not a cool thing. And it's pretty clear from this article that most of the emphasis and interest in or promotion of carbon capture has not been done in good faith. I'm sure there are some applications that are, and I hope there's continuing research into how to really do this in an effective way, because it kind of makes sense. It's something to do. And I think that's how it's been able to, how oil companies have probably been able to sell it, because it's such a no brainer thing. But anywho, so carbon capture is great if you're also reducing the amount of oil that you're producing as well, and you're not using that carbon dioxide just to pump more oil out. Okay, so these are all climate change. These are all systematic things and systematic changes that need to happen. And so it's bigger than any one person's choices, but it still is fun to think about little things that we can do, because it makes us feel good on our own. So now we're going to talk about lawns. This is the patch of grass that you'll have in front of your house or in your backyard. And of course, all of us have houses. So this should apply to everyone, because we've all got lawns, all got a nice big backyard that we bought with our low rate mortgage, and that we got for $150,000 in in the 80s. There's a meme going around, or a joke comment that you see on a lot of posts, where there's a lot of financial advice, videos online, where people are like, this is what you need to do to save your money. And one of the comments is always like, I can't believe I was such a fool to, I should have started, my savings account or whatever when I was 8 years old, right before the banking crisis or something like that. And like, so much of this advice it's good to, take a financial advice, but so much of the advice is like coming from people who either had money coming into it, coming into our current situation or whatever. Okay, I'm getting back to lawns now. Get back to lawns. Stay on topic. Okay, so issues with lawns. They waste water in two ways. Lawns waste water because you're just watering grass, and so it uses up water to keep them. But also, oftentimes you people put fertilizer on them, and then when you water them, or when it rains, that fertilizer washes into streams or the ocean and creates wastewater. When it goes into those storm drains, they can contribute to erosion. They can also spread invasives, because most of those lawn grasses are invasive grass species. And they also create a monoculture. So it's not necessarily a very diverse environment that will support lots of different insects or things like that. So here's some alternatives for your lawn, wherever it should be. And if you're in a, shared community, maybe you can get a petition to get some of it changed into one of these things. And if you don't have a lawn, maybe you can make it into a business to convert people's lawns. Ooh, that's a cool idea. I should take that. Okay, so here's some of the cool things you can do. And these are all based around, or ought to be based around, what are the species and plants that are native to the area where you have got your house and everything. And how should you do this sort of thing? So, first alternative, wildflower meadow. That sounds amazing. So, this could be a mixture of native grasses and native flowering plants. And this would most likely be moderately managed. There may be some clipping involved to simulate browsing animals like buffalo or something like that may have typically compacted the soil and eaten down the grass, but this would be not a whole lot of maintenance, I imagine, and would promote a healthy environment for many local indigenous bugs. Also, edible garden is our next alternative. So, this is planting things that you can eat in your garden. Handy for you, save yourself some money. It's absolutely wild how much they charge for herbs at the grocery store. Save yourself some money on herbs by growing them. You know what I mean? That's not the type of herb that I mean, but, you know, to each their own, wherever it's legal. And this one, Xeriscaping, which is Xeriscaping, which is landscaping with native plants that don't need water. So this is particularly for sort of desert related areas. And I love the look of these houses when they've got the desert setup. And the good thing about these is it often it may look like they would take a lot of runoff, but if the soil is done correctly there, they can be a huge sink for water. So it can allow water to sink down into the deeper levels of the Earth's crust. What have we got next? Rain gardens. This is a similar idea, but this could be in a rainy area and in areas that get lots of rain, planting plants that collect rain and prevent flooding. And one of the things that I like to think about with flooding related stuff is that trees, each leaf across a forest, when it's just holding a drop per leaf of rain, that adds up on the landscape scale to a huge amount of water that's not flooding down. And our last one is a food forest, which is a similar idea to an edible garden, but is where you would generally have tiered things that you're growing from tree things that will produce food for you down through different levels. So different height tiers through the forest of different things you can eat. So for all of those of you with the lawns, there's lots of cool things we can do. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I should start doing that. Start thinking about, well, I guess that's landscaping, which I have no experience in. Anywho, next and last piece of news here for today is about Palm Beach turtles. Now, Palm Beach has seen this year 21,000 loggerhead turtle nests. Well, actually, in this article, they said 21,000 nests, and most of those were loggerhead, but there were also some green sea turtles and other turtles. This is compared to 18,000 nests last year. It was also noted that Alabama has seen increases in turtle nests as well. So this is an ongoing effort that's been going on to promote safety for the nests for the turtles and to reduce the amount of poaching or bycatch that's killing these turtles. So this has been work that's been a long time in the making, and it's great to see that there are these good results coming along. So keep at it. That's the good thing and the bad thing with environmental related stuff is it sometimes it takes a little while to see the results that may give you that warm fuzzy feeling. So you may not get that instant gratification necessarily with trying to help or change an ecological situation, but when you put in the work over time, you see results, and they are seeing results in Palm Beach. And here's a little photo of some turtles, which is from the article, so I assume they're loggerhead, but I feel like they might be leatherback. So maybe that'll be our animal of the week next week is the loggerhead turtle. So that's all we got for now. Thanks for checking in, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.